Step off.
Come on, won't you say it loud? Ayo, we gon' turn this out. Tom Clark's main event. Dropkick now and powerbomb. Ayo, bro, let's bring this on. Hey, hey, what is up? Oh, captain, my captain, show the stuff. Power slammer, suplex 2. Hot garbage just for you. Big breaker, cut a cold red. Figure 4, hot times ahead. Since 2014, it's on. It's a 10 count, but stand up strong. Hey kid, no DQ. Strong style, chop, this is how it goes. Tom Clark's main event. Tom Clark's main event. Tom Clark's main event. Tom Clark's main event.
Hey, what's up, kids? Welcome back to the program. Tom Clark here with you on Friday the 13th. You guys missed that or what? Did you know it was Friday the 13th? I kind of forgot about it. Here's why it's a big deal, okay? Gather around. It's not. You want to know why? Because I don't believe in superstition, all right? I just don't. I don't believe in superstition. I just believe in me. If you get that reference, good on you. Good on you. So happy Friday, kids. I don't know where I was going with that. Happy Friday, kids. Hope you're having a great week. This is Tom Clark's main event, episode 347. Oh my, 3 weeks away, 3 episodes away from episode 350. You can do math, right? That's good math. 350 is good math. How about 250? If you get that reference, good on you. Huh? Pop culture, baby. It's my jam. I sell my soul to pop culture. It doesn't get me anywhere, but I do it all the time. Every podcast just gets crisscross applesauce. I'm just saying all the time, man. That's who I am. So if you've never watched the show before, what's up? I'm Tom. This is my podcast. We talk about pro wrestling here until the end of the show when we open the floor up, and I take questions about all kinds of stuff within reason, as long as it's respectful and as long as everybody plays nice. Okay? As people continue to file in here, let me tell you this part before we go any farther. We're celebrating 10 years for the podcast here. We're in season 11 here. And started this little sucker back in 2014. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty proud of it. We're still churning away. I want to thank everybody who's ever supported the show, all the guests that have ever appeared. You guys are the best. I still have a lot of fun doing this stuff, as well as my other 2 shows, Tom Clark 6M Podcast and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. More on that one in a bit. And again, thanks everybody for tuning in, as always, supporting the show. Do me a favor, kids, as everyone begins to file in one by one here. Smash the like button for me. You're going to get sick of that because I'm going to ask you to do it a whole bunch. Because you know why? It's free. What's better than free? Nothing. You hear me? Nothing's better than free. Free's everything. If I keep on, I'll never bring my guest on. I'll just ramble. He's in the waiting room right now going, good God, let's go. But he knows how I roll. He does another podcast with me. Remember I was telling you about Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast? Well, let me tell you, buddy, he's a part of that one. So, look, before we go any farther, let's go ahead and bring the man on right now. You know him, again, from Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast, but you also know him from the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. He is the one and only. Check him out, kids. Mr. Jay Luft. What's up, Jay? Welcome back to the show.
I'm good. I've just been staving off the Loch Ness Monster trying to take 350 off me.
I didn't get any of that reference. Say all that again to me.
I was referencing your 250 thing, was I not?
You were. Oh my God. It's been a long week. The ticker's not ticking. Look at there. It's been a long week. By the way, that's one of my favorite episodes of South Park that's ever happened.
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
God. And then it turns out at the end of the episode, he was right.
Yeah.
He was right. And I can't do the line because there's cursing in it. But oh my God, it's so good. It's so ridiculous. By the way, I hated when Isaac Hayes left the show and all the weird Scientology stuff happened. Rest in peace, Isaac Hayes. But I hated to see him leave. He was so great. He's so great on that show.
Yeah, he was awesome.
So great. Well, other than me fumbling your comeback to my joke, which is sucks, How's everything going for you? What have you been up to lately? And I know you were telling me recently that the Untitled Wrestling Pod is getting back. Yeah, are you coming back to full strength? What's that look like for you guys?
Yeah. So we pretty much we do like a monthly sort of roundup of everything. So that was what I've been editing this afternoon, which took me a lot longer than I anticipated, which I was telling you about before.
Mhm.
That should be out tomorrow, which is our review of All Out, as well as Rev Pro's 12th anniversary show that me and Ben were both at,
Nice.
which was a very good show. Check that out if you get a chance. And
Nice.
also Mystery Wrestling 10 we spoke about, because that was just insanity and I loved it.
Great. Yeah, I might have to check that stuff out, man.
Mystery
I'm gonna have to
Wrestling's
check
great.
it out. Yeah, for sure. By the way, kids, let's say some hellos. Everybody remembers Jay. Jay's the man. And Viking Jesus, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
The hat covers up the grandness of Viking Jesus, and there's no light to give you the halo effect.
Oh yeah, it's very dark here at the moment, to be fair.
That's fair too, because it's 9:00 where you are.
Mhm.
9:13. So there you go. All right, kids. Let's say some hellos. Ray All Day was first to the table. Good to see you. Sugar Shane is here. I will not be putting up your comment on the Cowboys. It is not happening. Forget it. Okay. Robbie, good to see you, my friend. JP in the house. Good to see you, dude. Let's see. Orlando, what's up, my friend? Thank you for hanging out as always. Orlando has the best picture. All the rest of us trying to look at that pick. We're all trying to play catch up to Orlando. That's how you take a pick right there. I've never took a pick that cool.
Not
Ever.
either.
I'm telling you. Mean Gene in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Again, folks, as everyone starts to pile in, as always, thank you for watching the show. I appreciate you. But if you will, hit the like button. And also, folks, if you don't care, please share the show wherever you are, whether it's the Facebook or the Twitter. I will not call it X. And also on the Instagram, wherever you are, it will take a link, wherever you are. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's the worst rah-rah speech ever. All right, guys, look, come on. You know what I mean? I don't know who that wouldn't assemble anybody. You didn't hear Captain America doing that stuff. So anyway, let's get to it, Jay. You were at All In.
I was wearing my shit.
Yes. Oh, show me. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so they did like a green and gold one last year. This year they did a home and away kit. This one and the other one, which was like blue and red.
Shut up. Two things. That thing's awesome. Number two, you paid way too much for it.
Probably.
I suspect. But that's what it's about. It's about, you don't go to wrestling shows to save money. That's not why you go.
I definitely spent less on merch this year than I did last year. I was a lot more responsible this year when it came to merch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I hear you. Oh, it's a great shirt. Let's see. By the way, what I was getting to was that you were at All In. You were not at All Out. But
no. Let
me get your opinion before we even dive into the show. From your opinion, do you rank one show over the other? Do you care about that? Have you thought about it? I'm just curious what you think here.
So I actually think from like a wrestling standpoint, I actually preferred All Out. But I think All In was great because like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter comparing the two, where it's like All In's like the dream and All Out's the nightmare. Where like obviously All In was like the fairy tale ending for Brian. There was a lot of kind of feel good moments on All In, whereas All Out was like, oh God, what's happening? Oh God, why have they got a cinder block? Oh God, why is Mock trying to kill Brian? So it was very. I think I preferred All Out just because it was like there was a lot more sort of shenanigans on there, shall we say? Whereas there was pretty much just the ladder match on All In, and then everything else was more or less just like a straight up wrestling match, which is fine. I enjoyed. I had a blast at All In. I thought it was a great show.
I am embarrassed that I didn't think of that. That is wonderful. What a great comparison. That's really perfect, honestly. The dream and nightmare thing. So, as far as pop culture is concerned, because again, that's what we do a lot of. But I'm looking at both that. I'm thinking, well, was All In Star Wars Episode 4? and
so Ben made
right?
that comparison to me where he was like,
"Oh, did they?
All In was A New Hope, and this was Empire Strikes Back.
Empire. Yep.
And Wrestle Dream or Full Gear will be Return of the Jedi somehow.
Oh, I'm loving it. I had no idea they were making that comparison. Kids, if you don't know Two Nations Under Ted Lasso podcast, you're gonna hear about it today. And that show is sick with Star Wars references. We probably do more during the review than there actually were on the show, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Oh my. By the way, kids, just in case you're wondering, episode 3 premieres tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Locked and loaded, baby. Can't wait for it. All right, Jay. Let's tackle this sucker. And we'll go through the entire card here. This should only take 3.5 hours. So I'm kidding. First match out of the gate, let's talk about this. The Acclaimed defeated the Iron Savages in a tag team match. A nice little way to start the show. I will say this. The Iron Savages wishes they were the Outrunners. This thing where they turn them heel and it's back and forth based on the night, whoever they're working, I don't know if it served them all that well. I think if they were face and they stuck with it, the gimmick is silly enough where it would get over, right? But what do you think about this as sort of being the first shot out of the gate for this card?
Yeah, it was a fun match. I enjoy the Iron Savages. I think they are just there for like sort of cannon fodder for whoever they've got to go against. So as you say, they flip flop them between face and heel quite a lot, but I enjoyed it. They're always fun to see. And they're one of those teams that seem to like maximize the TV time. Like if you're watching an Iron Savages match, you're never gonna like leave it disappointed. You're gonna get what you paid for, sort of thing.
They do their job. They know how to do their job.
Yeah.
At one dude's a hoss, man. God, he's a big boy. I'm telling you. But yeah, I like you. I thought this match was serviceable. I didn't think there was anything necessarily bad or necessarily great either way, but I thought it served its purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah. By the way, before we leave this match, we talked before about the possibility of Bowens and Caster splitting up, because I think most people that I've talked to, and I'll get your opinion here too, kind of all agree that Bowens is the better of the two. I mean, can we foresee Bowens being on his own, having a serious singles run at some point?
I think that it's on the horizon. There was I think I saw it on YouTube. They the way like they put the sort of like promos after matches like on Twitter and on YouTube after Dynamite. The Acclaimed one, whenever Max Caster was referring to himself as the best wrestler alive, Bowens was pulling faces where it was like, you what? I'm right here. I can see Caster turning on Bowens and us getting a little feud with them. I think Anthony Bowens is just like a natural babyface as well. Like he's such a good wrestler. He's so over with the crowd.
He is. And I think Caster has more of a heel look and a heel tendency anyway.
Sure.
We'll welcome a couple folks here. I want to say your name. I'm sure I butcher it every time. So can I just call you Mac? I don't want to be a jerk to you. I just don't want to butcher your name. I don't want to be disrespectful. But thank you for watching the show. He's watched before, more than one time. And also Maria, who took my advice and finally put up a pic for an avatar. Good for you. Very nice. She says, let's see, solid match for sure. And we got some other comments here about what's happening on the card. JP says, because it's AEW, they cannot decide who the heels and faces are. I sometimes feel like, Jay, I'm alone on that mountaintop. I said this to Phil 2 nights ago. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm too old school. I try not to be. I try to be in the here and now with wrestling as I do everything else. But there are moments, we can get into it later, but there are moments for me personally where it's like, I truly believe that part of the issues they're having with their numbers and how many folks are following them on a regular full-time basis, I really believe genuinely that it's got a lot to do with storylines and how they're not distinctly establishing the line between you need to hate this guy and you need to love this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Shades of Grey is good for some people, but not for everybody. Like I'm with you there, especially I think like for Iron Savages, for example, where they're like just an undercard talent who are there to have a good match with face team or heel team. It works because you're going to cheer them when they're against heels, but you might not necessarily cheer them when they're against like a team who's more popular. But with someone like further up the card, like say for example Darby Allin or Mox, it lends itself to them. House of Black's another one where it lends itself to them. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that a lot of the time it does need to be a little bit more sort of more defined. I think. I mean, we'll get to it when we talk about the main event, but that's something where it's really benefited from. There's not been a clear good guy and a clear bad guy because it's made for some of the most compelling storytelling I've seen in wrestling in like the last decade. But yeah, for sure, I think it, just because it works for one thing doesn't mean it has to work. They have to try and make it work for everything.
I don't know that I made this comparison out loud, but when I got actually into business in 2000, it was several years since Austin had hit, but everybody in the locker room wanted to wear black. Every single worker, right? Because he wore black and everyone loved Austin. And to me, that's kind of what's happening here too, is that, like you said, it's okay for a few acts to have this, we're not sure where they fall business. But if you have 50 guys in your locker room and for 30 of those guys, I don't know whose side they're on, that's weird to me.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I think because, again, to go back to Hangman and Swerve, they've made it work so well where it's become like a storytelling device, and it makes it very hard for other people to kind of do that when you've got like Swerve's the prime example. He's a beloved babyface until he needs to kind of turn up the bad guy in him, like with the Ospreay thing, where he's like, well, I know if I make it personal, it's going to benefit me because you're going to be more angry about it. And it's not necessarily that like it's not necessarily that he's completely turned heel, but he's obviously realizes he's got to be the bad guy in that situation to get the mental advantage. Same with the Bryan match.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Because it's all about mind games. That's how you explain a lot of stuff and get away with it, is mind games. Yeah. Let's see. Trios match. Hologram, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes defeated the Premier Athletes in a trios match. The Premier Athletes gimmick, I like it. All three of those guys are crazy solid. Josh Woods is better than he'll probably ever get in that company. He's so good. He's so quick. He can do a lot of things. He's a very believable wrestler. But, Mark Sterling, and I got no hate for Mark. Mark's doing his job. But, don't know how far this gimmick will ever go. I guess, Jay, in the long run, if you're consistently employed and you're getting a paycheck, that's what matters. But, I'd like to, at some point, to see them get a little bit more. But then on the other side, you've got Sammy and Dustin, who, for whatever reason, Jay, are tag team champions. So it's like, all right.
Because they did a ton of shows in Texas. That's why.
There you go. Yeah. And what was the last? Like Orange Face Hologram. It was either in a tag or a singles or a triple threat or something. And later on his I think it was on Twitter, on social media, Orange said, I'm pretty sure this guy is not actually a hologram, right? Such a great tweet.
Yeah, it was Hologram was tagging with Orange and Kyle O'Reilly, and on the end, on Hologram's entrance, they were just poking him to see if he's real.
That's so good. Make the best of it. Best of it. Again, Jay, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this. It was very serviceable. Nothing wrong here. Two solid matches to start out the gate. So
yeah, it's just there to get hologram over, isn't it, at this point? Which absolutely should be. I was lucky enough to see him wrestle in the UK like before he got signed, and he's incredible. Like
nice.
What we're seeing him do on TV at the moment, which is mind blowing, is still like a portion of what the guy's capable of. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I enjoy his work. He's one of those guys that just, if you blink, you'll miss it, right? So I like that a lot.
Super young as well, isn't he?
Is he? I don't have any idea.
I think
20
he's
maybe?
like 25. Like
really? Wow.
Maybe younger actually. But yeah, he's very good. I saw him 3 or 4 years ago and thought this guy's incredible. And then obviously he's got better.
Yeah, good for him, dude. Good for him.
Yeah.
You know, people love to make comparisons between this company and WCW, and I don't do that on this that much, but you do remember, like with WCW, one of the things that put Nitro and helped keep them on the map, I think, against the other company, was that they brought in a ton of lucha guys and just said, go crazy, do your thing. And I really think, like with ECW, it really elevated both companies. And I think, honestly, it elevates every company to a certain extent. I think that's what they're doing here too, man.
Yeah, like whenever we talk about Rampage, we always say that should just be an hour of like lucha. Just
I knew you were going to say that.
You've got all these luchadors in the company who are amazing. Just do an hour of it.
You know, 205 Live was a good show till it wasn't, and that's all I'm saying. But yeah, I'm okay with that. I actually really like that idea. Match number 3, another trios match, and you know, I was about to call you Phil. I record with Phil so much, it's crazy. But once again, like another trios match. But Jay, for me, this isn't about anything other than we want everybody to get on the card. We've got all these guys, get them on the card. I don't really ever have heartburn. That's a New Japan thing, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people hate it. I'm like, no, I really do not have a lot of problem with that at all, dude. I mean,
yeah, I've got no issue. Also, like a lot of, like we've just said about the previous match, that was pretty much just there to get hologram in front of more eyes because they're clearly trying to get the guy over. This felt like the same. That like everyone in that match are people that they're investing time into, like Top Flight and Leo. It was Top Flight and Leo Rush, or was Top Flight and Andretti. Shane Taylor Promotions with Beast Mortos. They're guys that are getting a lot of TV time. Undisputed Kingdom, they get a ton of TV time. So it's all people who are going to benefit from being there and obviously being able to kind of move certain parts of their stories along for when it does go to TV. So I had no issue with it.
Great point. And also, let me say this, is that if you see these guys on TV every week and they're never on the big shows, then you see them back on TV, that's going to become obvious pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so, if you've got a pay-per-view and Roderick Strong isn't on it, something's going wrong, in my opinion, because he's one of the best wrestlers in the company.
So good. Oh my God. So good. But Bang Bang Gang defeated the Dark Order. I suddenly in my head popped an All In because it wasn't dark enough outside. The 3 guys come out to do their in a circle entrance like the Avengers or something. And Juice was like fairly straight faced. And the camera cut away because they're like, wait a minute, it's not dark enough. When the camera came back and they did the 3, he was all of a sudden doing that. So good.
Yeah.
I love Jay.
He's great, Juice. I love him.
Juice. I'm sorry. Yeah, I love Juice. He's awesome. And, you know, good for the Guns. They stuck with it. Like, there was a period in time there, especially, remember the first, dozen or so matches they had, and we were like, ooh, this is going to take a little work. Man, they're such a good little team now, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They seem to get better every time I see them wrestle as well. Like,
yeah.
We do like end of year awards on our podcast, and we actually like I don't know how it happened, but we ended up saying that the Guns were tag team of the year last year because they had that really solid like tag title run, and we were just like, what? Everyone else who would be in that argument normally have not had good years, whereas these guys have had a great year and have started off like a fine team and ended it a great team. So. And again, as I say, like every time you see them, they just improve. so good. Like specifically Colton as well. I think he's awesome. Like Austin's great, but Colton, you can see like give him the opportunity, he could be a star.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, good little match, and then three-way trios, Undisputed Kingdom, as we said before, Beast Mortos and Shade Taylor Promotions. Let's say Action Andretti, and then Top Flight. Action Andretti, Top Flight. Yeah, man, there's too many people here, but no, it's good. Another good match. The Beast Mortos apparently going to enter into a program of some sort with freaking Ricochet, and the minute he speared him, I'm like, if you'd said, Tom, book Ricochet in his first serious thing, I'd be like, oh, you're talking Ospreay and Dante or whatever. But the minute he speared, I'm like, oh my God, this is what I want. This is totally what I freaking want, man.
The Beast Mortos is one of my favorite wrestlers, like, ever. He's so good.
Oh my God. Again, I didn't know I needed it till I saw it.
Yeah.
Freaking great.
He's awesome.
He is. First match on the official. Kids, is the official card. We got here. MJF defeated Daniel Garcia. Before I say a thing, because I did the preview show solo last week, I want to get your take on this. Tell me what you think about not just this match, but the rivalry leading up to it, how Daniels looked. What's your opinion on all this?
I think it's a weird feud for MJF, given where he'd kind of come from, like the Ospreay feud, because a lot of it felt weirdly timed for me, because I thought Garcia kind of needed to win that feud. Don't get me wrong, the way it ended was perfect, and it made him look strong as anything. Obviously, he's not re-signed a contract yet, which is why they were a bit like hesitant to have him go over a former world champion. But also, it was at that point in time, MJF's just lost to Will Ospreay. If they want to kind of keep his sort of like his star power relatively undamaged, he needed to win that match. So I was excited for the match. I thought it was a really like cool storyline, the way they had MJF take him out to lead to the Ospreay feud, and then Garcia come back to cost MJF and then be looking for revenge. I think just the timing of it was a bit weird for me.
Same here. And look, I was on the record last week. I said he should beat MJF. We all kind of agreed he wasn't going to. We didn't think he was going to, but I'm like, technically speaking, Daniel should win this match. I mean, I guess Jay, in some weird way, they made it up to him by letting him do the powerbomb off the rope after the match was over, or powerbomb, but DDT. Pile driver. It's Friday. I'm so tired. It's Friday. I haven't slept in 3 days. I did tell you that off mic, right?
You did. So to be fair, I think that, and this was for me, was kind of like a reoccurring theme throughout the show, that a lot of young guys who needed to kind of feel like a bigger deal than they were came out of the show feeling that way. So Daniel Garcia, prime example, where he came in that match, he controlled a great deal of it, and he should have won, but the fact that MJF had to cheat to beat him, and then Garcia still got like his revenge. Garcia came out with a stock considerably higher than when he went in my opinion.
I think so too.
And I think it's one of those things that AEW do really well, where they can make a guy look like $1 million in defeat. And Garcia in this match was a prime example of it.
I agree. Maria, I love you, but I disagree with you here. She says MJF is the bigger star. Garcia is not over enough to get a victory. I disagree with that, because
Garcia is super over at the moment.
How do guys get over except for beating guys who are more over than they are? I mean, and plus, whenever Jay, I've been guilty of it too, full confession. But sometimes when your favorite loses, you have a moment of heartburn. But then you got to remember, everybody's got to remember, people can't win every match. There have to be winners and losers, and that's just how the game's played. For sure. Maria, I respect your opinion, though. I appreciate you hanging out with us today. But yeah, I was here for it. Again, I think they gave him back some at the end of it. And here's what I'll say. I'm going to run this in the ground. Everyone's going to get sick of hearing it, I'm sure. No more dancing. I'm over it. I want new music. I want a new look. And call him the Killer. Call him whatever you want to call him. What was his nickname?
Red Death, which is what they were referring to him throughout this match. Obviously, he's gone back to like the older gear that he had.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be more serious. I think he's gonna have quite a bit of a bidding war for him, isn't he? I think his deal's up next month. So I think there's probably going to be a lot of money thrown his way from either company because the guy's definitely like the future of the wrestling business.
Gene, I love your comments so much. I'm gonna leave it up for a second. I love the idea of Garcia beating Perry for that title.
I literally had that conversation with Ben. I think it was during All Out actually. That Garcia should be the guy to throw Perry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Fernando said, "Hello, Fernando. I didn't tell you hello, by the way. The guy with the goofy dance shouldn't win against." I disagree. I hate the dance, but let's talk about dancing. MJF did a song and dance with Chris Jericho. It's all goofy, silly pro wrestling. That's all it is. Like,
and Garcia's distanced himself from them.
That's it.
He was doing that into like up until he got that match with Ospreay, and then he came out in the gear that was like his Red Death gear.
Yeah.
MJF tombstoned him off the top rope, and now he's come back like with an axe to grind and wanting to kill MJF for trying to win his career.
And Fernando, I got much love for you, but I respectfully disagree because again, I'm looking at that thinking again, Jay, if we, and again, Tom's been as guilty of this as anybody else. If we get too wrapped up in the semantics of how does this look versus how this look, I mean, again, we've seen a 7 foot tall undead zombie mortician.
Yeah.
And we all said, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So like, I don't know.
Also, Booker T was a world champion. He did the Spinneroonie. So, you know, there is that. This is,
you know what? I'm defeating my own argument.
Yeah.
I'm defeating because this kind of pushes back on my problem with the dance. I just need to let it go. Do you know what I mean? So I just defeated. You see what just happened? I just defeated my own argument. Oh my God. I got to learn to quit talking as much. Ray says Garcia became more serious, no more dancing, but I'll bust a move if you want. Ray, brother, anytime you want to do your thing, go ahead, my friend. A lot of things that people want to see. One of them is not Tom dancing, I assure you. So let's talk now. I had no segue for this. Let's talk now about the Young Bucks defeating the Blackpool Combat Club in a match that none of us were quite sure why it was happening to begin with, because we've all got love for Claudio and Wheeler. I know I do. But again, Jay, all these established tag teams and these two guys it's fine. Not the end of the world. Yeah. But solid match, good match, 15 and some change. You know, they did their thing. I enjoyed watching it. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like BCC Claudio and Yuta I like as a tag team, because they are the sort of the team of BCC, aren't they? Really. Mm-hmm. Again, to kind of like echo my point about Garcia and MJF, I feel like Yuta came out this match feeling like a much bigger deal than he did going in, because he like most of the match was the Bucks taking out Claudio and Yuta kind of doing a lot of like the legwork on his own. And then when Claudio come in to like sort of like get the save, it didn't feel like he was just like saving the match. It felt like he was just like even in the odds with Yuta and the Bucks, but Yuta was holding his own. I'd say it was probably the most impressive I've seen Yuta looking in a long time. But yeah, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was really fun. The Bucks don't get as much credit as they should for those heel characters. I think they're doing excellent work at the moment.
Yeah, I can't say I have a huge opinion on them at the moment. I'm kind of hearing everyone out. Like, I've heard your take, but then I've also heard Phil say things like they're kind of just sitting there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I actually want to see them wrestle more. Because
me too.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've heard a little bit of everything, but now the dynamic between Claudio and Wheeler is
Well,
it's over, I guess, right?
yeah, I think having them have this match kind of like it did a really good job of making the rug pull later on feel more like a rug pull, because they looked like they were all on the same page. So when there was that big betrayal later in the show, it was like, wait, but they like even after the match, Claudio was like sort of comforting Yuta because they got screwed over.
Yeah.
Like it really made for again, like that's whole situation blindsiding everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Let's see. JP says get rid of Garcia's best friend also, as long as he's with that goof. Oh, you mean
Daddy Magic.
Daddy Magic.
I quite like that. I like the fact that he's sort of like he's so it's almost as if he's riding his coattails. So I feel like because I think it's inevitable when Garcia does turn on him, it'll mean more because Daddy Magic sort of like mentored him, but also he's like riding his success.
And I like Daddy Magic too.
Yeah.
And by the way, if there's anyone on that roster begging for a talk show segment, I think Daddy Magic's it. That freaking accent, the way he talks.
He's great on commentary on Rampage. I enjoy him so much on commentary on Rampage.
He is, yeah, for sure. JP says swan song for Claudio and Yuta. I agree. Fernando says Dax is a solid performer. FTR should take a break from one another like the Hardys did.
I think they're both solid performers, to be fair.
I do too. Yeah. I don't hate that idea. But buddy, it does seem, and this isn't a statement meant to diss anyone else, but it does seem, Jay, on commentary, they tend to put Dax over when he works singles matches. Oh, he's got the hardest chops. He's tough as nails. I'm like, none of these things are incorrect. But then we don't hear a lot about Cash really that much. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't think there's anything behind that, you know?
Yeah, I think that maybe it's just, I guess, isn't Dax a bit older than Cash, and he's going to be retiring like at the end of this contract. So maybe it's just trying to get the solo matches they want to have Dax have because he is a great singles wrestler. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing FTR having solo runs for sure. But also at the same time, we're saying this when they're literally about to face GYV, which is like a dream match. So, and that feud is getting really interesting. So, I think I would have been more inclined to agree had we not have got like that kind of feud starting up. Whereas now it's like, especially after Dynamite this week, it's like, well, yeah, I'm okay with FTR and GYV having like a nice lengthy feud.
Oh, I'm here for it. I think honestly, I'd say I was going to say 5 matches. Go as many as you guys can go without dying from exhaustion. I mean, I say do it because I'm looking forward to that.
I think the match on Collision is not gonna like be the be all and end all, settling it for sure.
No. Fernando says Daddy Magic should become a manager. Love that idea. Anywhere he can be used as a mouthpiece, I think he would shine.
Yeah.
Maria says the Dudleys. Go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say just put 2.0 back together.
Yeah.
I think they're a really good like tag team, like the same ilk as like the Outrunners and Iron Savages, where they can kind of be on like the opening act of the card, or they can be further up and kind of complement another team. Like, yeah, they're really, really fun team to watch.
Maria with a good point. The Dudleys also took a break. I cannot recall because that's back when they were doing the draft thing, and it became they took Bubba Ray on this solo run that didn't go anywhere, and it was Reverend Devon.
Yeah,
and because it was Deacon Batista that they put with him. I honestly, I'd have to go back and find this out because I don't recall. It's been a lot of years, Jay, but it kind of feels like, well, let's just do this. They've been together. Let's just split them up. That's kind of felt like that's what they were doing, you know?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's up to you if we skip Osprey versus Pac. And here's why. It's not for why people think. I don't know what can we say here? We all knew he's gonna work Pac. Oh my God. And like then he worked him and we're all like, oh my God, what a match. What can we add to this?
There was moves they did in this match that I don't think the human mind can comprehend.
Right.
Like that reversal from the Stormbreaker. I literally have no idea how Pac did that.
I've never seen anyone do it before, honestly.
Well, one thing I will say, which we kind of touched on when we were talking about it, with Pac, he's so like you forget how good he is at that style because he kind of adapts his style for whoever he's working, and that's why he's so good. So when he's able to kind of like match someone move for move like that, you remember just how like incredible like a high flyer Pac is, as well as like all the other stuff he does. So yeah, it was just phenomenal, wasn't it? It was, yeah.
Yeah, Gene says, Jay, moves that the human body can't comprehend. Well put.
That too, but my body couldn't do any of that. Me watching it, I almost got a nosebleed. Like I couldn't do half that stuff.
Because I'm 6'3" and can be awkward, and because a pro wrestling ring, depending on whose ring you're in, can be a little soft on the inside where maybe it shouldn't be. I was always thinking, when you go to get in, be sure you lift that back leg up when you're going through the ropes, because when you trip your foot on that rope, it's so embarrassing. That's all I can think about all the time. And that's where I'm at physically. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm light years away from the crap these guys are doing. It's insane. Yeah. I mean, look, this is prognostication at its finest. How long before they put that belt on Will? Is it a year? Maybe. I mean,
so the thing is at the moment, which is really, it's kind of a blessing and a curse they've got, is that they've got like 3 singles titles that could be made to feel like world titles should they put like the emphasis on them. Like they've got the international one, which like, I mean, when Orange had that belt, it felt like on a par, if not more important than the world title at times. And I think Will can make that international title feel just as important, if not more important, than the AEW world title. Same with Okada with the Continental Championship. Whenever he defends it, it feels like a big deal. Yeah. So I think they, if they wanted to, they could hold off till All In 2026 because that's back in Wembley. But I also think they might do it at Forbidden Door because that's in London. I think they'd be silly not to have him win the big one in the UK.
Yeah.
Just because the pop they get would be huge. I mean, the pop he got All In when he beat MJF was one of the loudest things I've ever heard.
Man, what a match!
Yeah, that was great.
Ray says, "Is his buddy Kyle gonna? If there's anyone in the conglomeration, if any one of those guys is gonna turn heel, it'll be Kyle. I feel like.
I think he means Kyle Fletcher.
Oh, Kyle Fletcher.
Yeah.
I was thinking Kyle O'Reilly.
I'm wondering when Mark Davis is back because the fact that they were making a big deal about like Kyle, the only person I'd won the team with is you, Will, and Osprey like brought up Mark Davis and they were like, no. I was like, you sure about that, Kyle? Because he broke his arm at Wrestle Dream last year, so he's been out for like a year.
I was just gonna look up how long he's been gone. Wow.
Yeah, it was literally last year's Wrestle Dream was when he got hurt, so he's been out a year, so he's got to be back soon, surely. I
would think. Yeah, I don't know. I love Aussie Open. I And you know what? I love that instead of putting this kid on the ROH show, no disrespect to the ROH show, but they kept him on live TV and they let him have all these singles matches, and man, he looks good. And like,
it's very good.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like, yeah, sure, he can turn heel on Will, but like, we're all going to see that coming. We know they're not going to beat the Bucks. And I assume after they don't beat the Bucks, that, Don Callis will sick his boys on him, right?
I mean, they could literally do Aussie Open and Will Ospreay against the Callis family. Hobbs is almost back. So then you've got Hobbs, Roosh, and Takeshita. Nice little feud there. That's what I'd do, but because it would make more sense, especially with the United Empire, and then obviously you've got the rest of the United Empire waiting in the wings if need be.
Yeah,
if it really hits the fan. So, yeah.
I just imagined Mark Davis facing off against against Hobbs in the ring. Oh my God.
Mark Davis is so underrated. That guy's so good. So
good, yeah. So, man, I can't wait to see that guy back, dude. What a good tag team.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Fernando says Will do for the International Championship what RVD did for the ECW TV title. Ooh, I like that a lot. Great point.
As I said, I think Orange already did like a lot of legwork with that belt, like making it feel like a world championship. And then I wouldn't say it felt like it had kind of like diminished since when Ospreay won it, because it literally went Orange, Roddy Ospreay. But I do think that like maybe it was taken less of a center stage because Swerve as the world championship champion and Joe before was like such a big deal. But yeah, I'm definitely think Ospreay can make that belt feel super important.
Yeah, I agree with that. Marie says Fletcher looks like baby Ospreay. JP says they were probably waiting until the belt is on a heel before letting Ospreay win the AEW title. But on the other hand, this is AEW. Not a bad point to make. But Jay, I'm inclined to agree with you about the 2026 thing. You think they can wait that long?
I think so. I think so. Tony Khan always seems to have like it really planned out with his world champions. Like when he started the company, he said I had the first 4 world champions planned out before any other. And I mean, you've just got to look at obviously like the way that went. It was Jericho, then Mox, then Kenny, and then Hangman. And it all made sense. And then as soon as he got to there and Punk beat Hangman, it didn't make sense anymore. And I think the way it's kind of like been laid out, like maybe not as planned as you would have thought, with obviously Swerve dropping it to Brian was a little bit of a curveball for me. But I think we're probably going to get Mox to dethrone Brian. We're probably going to get Darby to dethrone Mox the way things are going. Then where do we go? Like you could quite easily have Jack Perry dethrone Darby and then Ospreay dethrone Jack Perry. And it's how long do you drag that out? There's also the world where Swerve wins it back and Hangman beats Swerve for it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities at the moment. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing them holding off on Ospreay, because as I say, with the international championship, he can make that feel like a world championship. And then it's like Swerve. Everyone was like frothing at the mouth for Swerve to win the belt, and they did it at just the right time. I think with Ospreay, they can do that same thing, and it'll be as big a moment. They might hold off for All In Texas next year because again, it's a big moment. But I do think he doesn't necessarily need to win it this soon, as insane as that sounds, because he's one of the most over guys in the company.
And plus, not that this is not a blessing and curse situation for me, because like putting the world title on anybody shouldn't be seen as a curse for any reason. But like, there's so much he can do, and then plus once he's got that belt, Jay, every main event is Will, which he can more than do it. but like not having him there yet, kind of in some weird way makes him. It's more must see TV. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because you could put him anywhere on the card and he could pop the crap out of it.
I think the thing with Will Ospreay at the moment is there's that many exciting opponents that for him to have outside of the world title picture. Doesn't need the world title yet.
Are we getting when are we getting him and Ricochet? Because they're already talking about it.
Oh, I think Wrestle Dream. I think I was very surprised that it wasn't a Grand Slam, if I'm being honest, but I think Wrestle Dream's where we get that.
I think it's going to be. Again, I don't know what I can add. What can I add, right? Like, we're getting so many insanely good matches right now. So I'm here for it. I said on the show last week, kids, Chris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale was going to bring you out of your seats and was going to deliver and fire on all cylinders. And boy, howdy, did it ever. They had they got 15 minutes on the nose, Jay. This match, holy cow.
Yeah, I adored this. It was the perfect match to follow Ospreay and Pac as well. Like, they needed something that was going to be a complete palate cleanser from what you'd just seen. So to go to a street fight was a smart idea. Willow and Stat have amazing chemistry together anyway. And both of them are proven at being really good in street fights. And then, like, they did stuff that we've not seen anyone do in AEW before. They got light tubes for crying out loud.
Wow.
I thought I was watching a GCW show.
Do you think that was a prop? Do you think that was a real deal?
Oh no, it was definitely gimmicked.
Yeah.
There was no spooky dust.
No spooky dust. Supposedly that stuff, that dust in there, because having worked in the world of retail years ago, we would have to throw out those old bulbs in the dumpster, and we had the best time doing it because we just wanted to bust them. And that dust had come up, and someone's like, "Don't breathe that stuff in, dude. It's not good for you." And I'm like, "All right." So yeah, spooky dust. I like that. Look, I know it was time to wrap this up, and I know it was time for Chris to get her win. I know all that stuff, but man, I'm gonna kind of miss this feud a little bit. Like, they're just so good together.
I don't think it's necessarily over.
No?
Well, they could always do a title match.
It's fair, yeah.
The only reason they did the street fight non-title was because CMLL wouldn't have sanctioned the street fight for the belt.
Interesting, yeah. You think maybe that match could happen in Mexico? You think that's something they would do?
Yeah, potentially. I don't see why not. They seem to be working really closely with AEW at the moment.
Yeah. I love the fact that company has partnerships set up, man. I just think it's good for everybody. Honestly, good for the business too. Let's see, Maria with a bold take.
Oh,
look at that!
It's definitely in the argument.
Best women's match of the year.
I'd say the only other ones that I could think of off the top of my head that would be even in like close to it were Layla Hirsch and Diamante from was it Death Before Dishonor?
Yes.
The show? That was a fantastic match.
So good.
And Athena versus Aminata from that show was amazing too. And obviously I'm biased because I was in the crowd for it, but Tony versus Mariah. That was tremendous.
Tremendous. Yeah. You just named 3. I mean, 2 plus this one. Yeah. Fernando says this was both Willow and Chris's best matches in their AEW careers. Boy, that's another. I love when the audience brings bold statements. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, we knew this thing were going to be big for sure. Let's talk about the AEW Continental Championship. Kazuchika Okada defeated Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Konosuke Takeshita. Another really fun match, Jay. Nice little spots worked in. And by the end of this, everyone and their brother wanted Takeshita versus Okada, which we're absolutely going to get. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think we're getting Takeshita Okada at Grand Slam. It makes sense. It just makes so much sense. I thought this was really fun. I feel like they teased us enough with Takeshita Okada for it to justify a singles match without giving too much away. I love the fact that obviously Orange and Mark Cassidy Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe being like members of the conglomeration, they were just like doing antics every now and again, just not taking it seriously, but still taking it seriously. Like the bit where they like high-fived and hugged and then just started brawling with one another.
So good.
Yeah, Mark Briscoe's one of my favorites as well. Whenever I see him on TV, I'm happy.
Awesome.
Talk about a guy who gives 110% every match. That guy's
every time.
So good. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm so excited for Okada and Takeshita to have a feud. I think when Okada signed, that was like the match that I was like most excited to see, because obviously two like big imports from Japan, who never crossed paths in Japan.
This is going to be a weird thing to say because it shouldn't matter now, but I don't. First of all, I don't believe Takeshi is going to pin Okada, but even if it were an option, would it be an option, Jay? Would it be that out of respect to New Japan, out of respect to Gato, would never have put Takeshita over on Okada because Takeshita is a DDT guy? I don't think that matters. It shouldn't matter now. But do you think there's a world in which Tony's like, I got to take that into consideration? Does it matter? I don't know.
I don't think so. I do think Okada's super protected at the moment, and I think he'll remain that way till the C2, because that's clearly where they're going with this. That being said, with the Takeshita thing, look how strong he was booked in the G1. Like,
so good.
The DDT thing doesn't matter as much anymore as it did like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they put the belt on Kota Ibushi in the first place shows that. And Kenny, because they were two DDT guys until they went. But no, I think Takeshita should be the guy to dethrone Okada, in my opinion, because I think Takeshita needs, like, he's at that stage now where he needs a belt. He's that good. He's that like exciting to watch, and I think that's the next sort of step for Takeshita to feel like a star. Is he needs a title.
Interesting.
I don't know what title that would be, but I'd say the International or the Continental Crown are the two that would make the most sense for me. But I think he probably doesn't win the first match with Okada, but I do think he might beat him in the C2 and end up winning it to get that belt.
Yeah. I mean, are they going to protect him to the point for the Omega match that he maybe doesn't lose until Omega comes back and he beats him then?
I mean, I don't think he needs to be protected that much. I think if he loses it in the C2, it's like the same thing as if he were to defend the IWGP title in the G1. Like if he loses it in that kind of scenario, it protects him so much. Whereas if he loses it in just a straight up singles match, maybe not so much. But even then, it's like Takeshita's at that level now. After the when was it he wrestled Ospreay? Was a Revolution?
I think so. Yeah.
After that match, his stock like rose so much, and then obviously after the G1, now he feels like he could walk into the main event if he wanted to.
Yeah. He has a presence about him. And maybe it's his height, maybe it's his build. I don't know, but I think it's that and a few other things that he just has a presence. Like he feels like a big deal because he's so good. And like, wow.
And he's also very young, isn't he?
Is.
Still in his 20s.
Yeah. I was thinking this earlier. Maria took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Briscoe is me. Yeah. I mean, Mark's even doing the bang bang off the rope, or off the apron. Here's what I'll say about Mark real quick, Jay, is that I think he could become the Ron Killings of this company in as much as, hey, Mark, how long do you want to wrestle here?
Yeah.
Because that's how long we'll keep you. However long you want to stay. You know what I mean?
100% agree. I think he's got a job for life there, and I think he's happy with that because he seems to be very sentimental and people taking a chance on him.
Yeah,
that's why the Briscoes stuck around with Ring of Honor as long as they did, because Ring of Honor took a chance on them when no one else would. There's that famous promo they did on getting turned down for WWE because they weren't cosmetically pleasing.
I'll never forget those words.
And you can see like that where the loyalty stands because of that. So I agree. I think if he wanted the job for life, he'd have it.
I love him. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Such a good promo. It's an awesome promo. Angie says, please explain to me why they turn heel, do the wrestlers. They just wrestle less. For example, Okada and the Young Bucks. Okay. I've made my feelings on this known before, Jay, but I'll get your take on it here too. Okada carried that company in New Japan. All right. In Japan. He carried them. He did his part. You know, those guys beat themselves to death in that company. Strong Style is legit. You know, now he's getting paid handsomely, I would imagine, to work far less. I'll bet you, I don't know for sure, who knows, but I would say he probably feels better physically. He's not as beat up. He's Okada. He gets a pop every time he comes out. You could book him anywhere on the card. You could book him main event. If someone suddenly tomorrow said, I want to put the belt on him next week, they're like, cool, let's just do it. And it would totally work. I mean, what's your take?
The thing with Okada for me is it, and this is very much the way he was presented in New Japan in the last couple of years. He's an attraction. Like the guy doesn't need to wrestle week in, week out. Like when you get a singles match with Okada announced in AEW, you're instantly excited because, oh God, we're getting to see Okada wrestle this guy. Like Kyle Fletcher match, like, was it last week or the week before that they just announced out of the blue? It was like, oh yeah, Okada's going to wrestle Kyle Fletcher. I was like, awesome, that's going to be a great match, and it was. Like, I think I like the fact that with the Bucks, obviously it's part of their gimmick that they don't wrestle all the time, because why should they? They're EVPs, and the same with like Scapegoat and Okada. They're getting protected by the EVPs. It's playing into something much bigger for that. I feel like I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they're doing that to play into the storyline, because when it does come and bite them, then it's going to be like, all right, that's actually made it worthwhile. And
he got one word over. He got one word over.
He got pretending to cry over as well.
Oh my God, it's so good. I'm so sorry.
When he did the thing with Orange at the start of the Casino Gauntlet, I was like doubled over with laughter because we were like, it come up on the big screen with like a card of like crying. I was like, oh, it's brilliant. So we saw the exactly how it played out, like from where we were sat.
So awesome. I think it was the Go Home show for All Out that Sheeta did the same thing in her promo. And again, I'm not trying to pick. I've been picking a lot lately. In the grand scheme of things, that word being used twice on the same show, it's probably this big. But for me, I'm like, I can't believe they let her say that. Like, but you know what I'm saying? Like, when you got something that's working, leave it alone. Let the one guy have it.
To be fair, that was a callback to Mercedes and Okada doing the thing with Private Party the week before.
Yeah, don't pardon this. Don't make me feel like I'm ranting for no reason.
I was okay with that instance, but I do get what you mean.
Yeah.
If it makes sense for them to do it, I've got no problem with it. But
it's I don't know. It's weird. I tend to stumble over things sometimes and not have any clue why certain decisions are made, but that's me. Fernando says Takeshita versus Bryan is a fire championship match.
They had a match last year, did they not? Which was very fun.
Yeah. Man, we got stuff to talk about.
See it again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Depending on how this thing plays out, it feels like the clock's ticking on Danielson, but maybe it's not. We don't know. Man, have we got stuff to talk about with that? Jeez. Kids, before we do that, at the moment, let's do this. Everybody watch this.
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
Boom, there you go, kids. boinkstudios.com. Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and the show that Jay and I both host is Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast, along with the great and wonderful, the sublime Joseph Higgins.
A one and only.
The one and only. Yeah. So yeah. But here's what I don't want to get into the Danielson thing. I'm gonna have to save it because I got thoughts. I can't wait to get to it. We got 3 matches left, kids, and we're gonna take it home after that. We'll open the floor, then we'll take it home. Speaking of Mercedes and Shida, Mercedes defeated Shida. Singles match for AWTBS Championship. Boy, you talk about, Jay, a major difference in Mercedes pay-per-view matches from one to the other. Huge difference here. What did you think about this one?
It started off really well. I feel like it went longer than maybe it should have. Like they started off at a really kind of like fast paced, and then it got to like the bit where Mercedes was trying to cheat, and it sort of like took the wind out of all the sails. I think didn't need that spot. It kind of derailed the match a little bit. I would have probably shaved a couple of minutes off it because it didn't need it. It was the pace they were going at. They could have justified it being a shorter match.
I like this one far better than Mercedes match at All In with Britt Baker, right? I mean, that's not too hard.
Yeah,
that's not too hard. I think 75% of this match was on point and fun to watch, and then it did kind of get a little sloppy near the end. Shida hitting how many finishes in a row or whatever it was, and Mercedes kicked out on one. And Phil and I were talking about that 2 nights ago, and he had thoughts because he's like, he feels like something happened. Like, why would a heel kick out on one? It's a good question. Seemed like she got a little irritated, a little frustrated. But I don't know. That's just us speculating. So, where do you think Mercedes goes from here, by the way? Do we know?
I'm not too sure. Like, I feel like she needs an opponent who can really get the best out of her. And for me, it would be either Toni Storm or Jamie Hayter would be the 2 logical people I would put her with. Because I think she could have really good matches with both of them, and the styles would complement very well. The other person I would have said was Mariah May, but she's a bit busy at the moment. Or Athena, again, a little bit busy at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think she definitely needs someone who's I don't know what it is with Mercedes, which is kind of causing it to not have good matches and like pay-per-views, but because she's had good TV matches, like a match with Willow and was that a Double or Nothing? That was great. A match with Stephanie Vaquer at Forbidden Door was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then it's literally these last 2 pay-per-view matches with people who are kind of like the old guard of AEW, so you'd think they'd at least be able to have a good match with it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the whole like kind of. Again, this match felt like it was going great until it wasn't. Like, as you say, 75% of the match was fun, and then the last little bit was just like kind of like it fell apart. Yeah, no idea.
16 minutes and 30 seconds. It was only 3 minutes and some change less than Ospreay and Pac.
Yeah. I mean, if as I say, shave a couple of minutes off that, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
It was only the last couple of minutes of it that it felt like the wind came out the sails on it.
Yeah, and Maria made the comment that Mercedes matches are better when she's given good dance partners, unlike Britt Baker. Yeah, for sure. You can
But
say
then-
that about it.
But then she is a good dance partner.
It is a very good dance partner. Yeah. I mean, it's a matter of, Jay, we've heard this for years, and it's 100% true. This notion of the better the person you're working, the better the match is going to be. And I like John Cena a lot. I got no problem with John Cena, but his best matches, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, you know what I mean? The guys who could work all day with their eyes closed and put on great matches. Those were John's best matches because John tended to work up to that level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the idea of I'm getting in there with Shawn, I'm gonna hold my end of the deal here. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, look, Mercedes is the biggest women's star in that company. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
One thing that Ben actually said on our podcast when we recorded it, which I didn't actually think of, but it was really a really good point, was that despite the fact Mercedes isn't having necessarily the best match on the card, what she's actually like, the impact she's had on that women's division is fantastic. Like the fact they're getting more time, more matches on the card, the chance to actually like build a storyline as opposed to kind of going you and you. And obviously there was, before Mercedes got there was the Tony and Mariah feud, but there wasn't a great deal else going on outside of that. It was just good matches, but no real substance. And it feels like her impact is definitely being seen in that sense.
I agree. I'm with you, completely with you on that. Yeah. Let's see. Ray says, and he's shot Charlotte comes to AEW. Never say never. And everyone's going to tell me no way. JP says, not without Andrade being on SmackDown. I would never say never. I think it's unlikely, but I would never say never. I mean,
I think it all depends on what kind of like creative she's being offered.
Yeah.
At this point, like she's done everything she can in WWE. I wouldn't be surprised if she decided she wanted to see what it was like outside.
Mm-hmm.
There's that many different opportunities in wrestling at the moment. If your contract's coming up, you'd be stupid not to see what the biggest offer on the table is.
Dude, it's about testing yourself too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is maybe an obscure reference, but I remember that old ECW doc back in the day when Taz was talking about he'd won the ECW championship. And he's like, all right, great, but now what? He's like, I've done everything. And it's like, he didn't leave Paul because he was unhappy. He left because he's like, I'm just going in circles. I've done everything. What's left? So like, again, from a creative standpoint, I can completely understand why it's like, all right, I got to see if I can go over here and get over too, Yeah,
absolutely.
Fernando says Sting, Lex Luger, Madam TA would be nothing without Ric Flair, the ultimate dance partner. I won't say they would have been nothing, but I will say that Rick helped all three tremendously. Because he gave the rub to all three of those guys. Let's see. Maria says, I like to see Trish in AEW. But, I suspect Trish's working days are probably coming to a close, maybe. Has she had an official retirement match or no?
I mean, it was Charlotte Flair. And then before that, it was Lita.
That's right.
She, at this point, she's like more like Trish Funk.
Trish Taker. the under Trish. I don't know. That had a 50-50 shot of landing and it didn't land. It's fine. 2 matches left, kids. Oh my goodness. That Bryan Danielson defeated Jack Perry. So here's what I'll say. Jack Perry getting a world title shot, there's reasons. And Jack is probably not what anybody wanted to see. Right, of course. Well, I don't say of course, whatever. Man, this kid. There's such a thing as listening. And I'm not going to try to rant here, okay? There's such a thing as listening. And if you know, you know. So when you're watching a pro wrestling match, you can tell if the opponent's listening, especially if it's a younger guy. because like I would watch Daniel go to pick him up, and Jack is up. You know what I mean? Popping up, like because he's a good worker, and plus he's wrestling a veteran, and it's Danielson. Like that kid was there for every spot. That kid was there for, like, again, you listen. That's the number one rule in pro wrestling matches, especially if you're on the rise. Just listen to me, kid. Keep your ears open. We'll be fine. Man, he gave Danielson, I think, a really good match.
I really enjoyed this. That sell from the Busaiku knee as well was incredible.
Yeah.
He took it like he got hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. I thought this was a really fun match. I feel like, again, it was kind of like a reoccurring theme that there was a lot of young guys who were made to look like they were stars, and this was another one. I think that's by design, because obviously you've got like Danielson's about to retire from full-time wrestling, at least. MJF obviously looks like he's a part-time deal at the moment because he's going off to film stuff. Yuta is whatever's going on with Yuta is going to be interesting, given what happened after this match. Mm-hmm. And it was all done in the aid of like helping the future of the company. So I didn't have an issue with Jack Perry. I feel like, if anything, Jack Perry was the logical person to put in that match, because they needed someone who felt like a viable threat to Danielson, but also we knew wasn't going to beat Danielson and could have looked good in defeat, and ticks all three of those boxes.
Great points. And also, it can be one and done. He doesn't have to feud with him again.
Yeah, even the way they did it, where it was Danielson saying, open challenge, first come, first served. And Jack Perry was like, all right, yeah. I'll be the first come, first served. Yeah, I'll make him a name for myself. Again,
I like to have a belt. Yeah,
it didn't hurt him. They had the excuse that the Elite were going to get involved, which would mean the BCC were going to come out. It played everything perfectly into the aftermath of the match, and it served the purpose it needed to.
Oh yeah, for sure. Ray says, did you notice the referee helped Jack kick out? He hit his, yep. Look, kick out. And I don't know what happened there, Jay, but Jack should have kicked out. He did not kick out.
Yeah. I to be honest, I completely missed that.
It's very quick, but because people want to burn AEW because they have nothing better to do with their time. It's all over the place. You can find it anywhere, but look, kick out. Like, you're a grown man. You know this isn't the finish. Kick out. So it kind of maybe, I'm not saying for sure. I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. Kick out. Again, it's not the finish.
I mean, like that's the thing, isn't it? We don't know what was going on there. Like, he could have had the wind knocked out of him. He could have been not loopy. There's a multitude of reasons why he might not have kicked out. I don't think he's done it deliberately, for sure.
No.
Ref
had to do something.
Yeah, that's it. Especially if you got like a big thing planned for the finish.
I worked with a ref years ago, and he was one of the best refs I've personally ever seen. And he'd tell the locker room, because before we rang the bell to open the show that night, sometimes he'd want to speak, and it's like, what you got for us? And he'd just say, everybody, look, kick out when you're supposed to kick out, or I'm counting 3. And he would. And we had matches in where it's commentary going, right? And this is before I started writing storylines for him. But like, there was some matches ended because guys would get lost or they'd forget or whatever. And he's like, you're not going to make me look like an idiot with my hand in the air. I'm going to count 3. That would be my job if it's real, you know? So yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Well, again, I've been at a show where someone's like had the wind knocked out of them and they didn't kick out, and it just got counted and the match ended.
Yeah.
And it was the right person still lost, but it was just like, you could tell it was like an abrupt finish, and it was just like, literally could see them go, I'm so sorry. I knocked the wind out of me when I took that bump, and it just
oh,
so, yeah, it happens. It's just obviously in like a world title match, it's going to be more noticeable than on a match on the Indies. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it happens. I've got no issue with it.
Maria says that this match is better than I thought, but I don't think Jack should have been in this spot. Fernando follows that up with Jack Perry's most improved wrestler of the year. Interesting.
I'd agree with Fernando.
Yeah. And Sugar Shane says Christian Case is the future AEW champion. All right, let's get to the end.
Well, yeah.
Because Shane got us there. So here comes Christian and his people. And looks like Christian I'm thinking, I love Christian. If you freaking put Christian over on Danielson right now, are you kidding me? And then, of course, here comes Claudio. Here comes Mox. Here comes Marina Shafir. And Wheeler, Utah. And we're thinking, oh, no, they got their back. Danielson's all smiles in the ring. And for a split second, this is not me saying, oh, I'm so smart. For a split second, I thought, oh, God, I wonder if they're going to. Nah.
So when it was just Mox, I was like, oh, Danielson's in danger. Get out of there. And then when the BCC lined up with Mox, I was like, maybe not.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, there's two ways this goes. Either Christian just walks off, or they part and Christian goes through and just does it anyway. But obviously they did the former, I should say, where Christian just walks off. But I think it's cool that Christian's got that contract for basically Money in the Bank, isn't it? And I like the idea that he's now, whenever there's a title match, Christian's going to be like a vulture ready to pick the scraps.
Yeah.
Because when he does, I think he'll be successful. I do. I think it's the same reason why they put the belt on Danielson and why they put the belt on Jericho, because they want the lineage of the belt to have all these massive names within that. And Christian's a massive name. Tony's literally said like he's one of his favorite wrestlers of all time. So he's absolutely winning that world title at some point. And this would make the most sense, the way to do it.
Man.
Just when.
Hot takes. Hey, I'm here for it.
I think he's earned it. I think he's been one of the best signings AEW's ever made.
Yeah.
He's excellent. I love Christian.
Yeah. Christian's very, very good. Well, okay. The spot.
Yeah.
So we've seen this before, Jay. It's not the first time we've seen a bag over somebody's head. As you're watching in real time, did you say, oh my God, or did you say, what was your gut reaction watching it live?
I was shocked because, so bearing in mind, when I was watching it live, it was like 4 a.m. here. So I was like half asleep, trying to stay awake. On like my 8th cup of coffee, just still falling asleep. And then Claudio uppercutted Brian, and I sat up in my chair. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And then it was the way Brian sold it as well, where he sat down and he's shocked, and you see Mox behind him with the bag. You already know what's coming. And the only thing that made me sad was Eddie Kingston's been pitching doing that spot to turn heel on someone for like years. And it was great. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was the right amount of shocking. Like the whole Yuta looking uneasy at Mox like hugging and kissing Brian, and then Pac hugging Yuta and then giving a nod to Claudio, and then Claudio hitting Brian, and then Mox putting the bag over his head. And yeah, it was cool. The commentary sold it amazingly. And again, like as we just said there, it's a Terry Funk tribute. I think using it sparingly is very good. Like I don't think Mox should do that again to anyone else now, because it will just completely diminish the shock value of it. But
yeah,
for that moment, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was something to behold. And people comparing, I saw CZW comparisons. I saw well, this isn't wrestling and the blah blah blah. And I'm like, I just remember what Triple H dressed up as Kane did. I remember Boss Man being hung from the rafters. I remember Brian Pillman pulling a gun on live television. And this is not Tom bagging on that company, Jay. It's fine. But like, you know, we tend to have selective memory sometimes when we want to be outraged. We tend to forget this kind of stuff's happened plenty of times before.
There was a great deal of goalposts moving that night, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
For this and for the following match.
Mm.
Yeah, I did see a lot of moving of the old goalposts. But yeah,
I mean, let people say what they want, because I mean, what I find entertaining, you may not, or vice versa, and that's the same for all of us. And like, you know, Maria is bringing it home right here. Violence has always been a part of wrestling. What are people complaining about? Because people are
right out of my mouth.
Yes. And, you know, 3 simple words that we've run into the ground along with the rest of the world. This ain't ballet. I mean, this is supposed to be violent. If pro wrestling were real, and unless it was if it was legitimized, there's rules and there's, you know, all this like UFC, maybe it wouldn't be like that. But if pro wrestling were genuinely the Wild West where you're actually trying to win matches, there'd be stuff like this happening all the time. Like, you know, I want to win. I got to get money. You know, I got to get paid. Oh, Ray said, didn't WWE have his personals cut off? Hey.
Sure did.
I'm saying. I'm just saying. Yeah. Again, am I in love with this spot? I'm not in love with it. Did it ruin my night? It didn't ruin my night. It's pro wrestling. It's not real. Kids, I don't know if you know this, kids. It's not real. It'll be fine.
As I say, if them doing it once, it's great for shock value because it completely served its purpose. It was there to make people feel uncomfortable and shock people, and it did both of those things. And it made Jon Moxley the biggest monster in the company, which was again was the end result that they wanted. Yeah,
for sure. One more match, folks. Hangman Adam Page defeated Swerve Strickland in a match. By the way, Jay, Page finally got a win here in a match that doesn't count. So that leaves just enough meat on the bone for this to come back later. And I don't know what to do next time. I guess they'll drop an anvil on each other like Wile E. Coyote or something. I don't know.
Just do a dog collar match. That's all I want. Been saying this for months. Do a cage, then do a dog collar.
Man, there was a real cinder block. There was a hypodermic needle.
Yep, it sure was.
There was Page getting whiplash into the cage. My God.
Hangman did an awesome bomb, which made me pop. That power bomb onto the cinder block that Swerve took was really upsetting.
Big time.
But it was like. It was exactly what it needed to be, and I was watching it with guys who watch a lot of deathmatch wrestling who are desensitized to a lot of stuff, myself included, and there was spots that made me feel uncomfortable because it built up to the violent spots as opposed to just starting off with violence. I thought this was tremendous. I loved this match. I thought it was excellent. Again, with the unprotected chair shot at the end, it was a obviously gimmick chair.
Yeah,
I've seen. Well, I've seen this. Have you seen the shot of the like someone took from the crowd? Because obviously they switched the camera angle because it was as if to make it like look like it was like too horrific for TV. And it literally just flaps open. It was safe as anything. It was it was probably one of the most safer spots they did in the entire match.
I was gonna say, at that point, a chair shot's nothing. Like, you know, it's again, Jay. I'm not trying to speak for anybody because I don't know these guys, but it feels as though it's like maybe like we want to leave. We want to do some good work. We want to knock them out of their seats. We want people to talk about us. This is about, dude, Jay, this company's being built on these rivalries for the past 5 years. Like, That's how it feels.
I've said this a few times now. It feels like Hangman and Swerve is the equivalent to AEW, what Rock and Austin were in the Attitude Era for WWE.
I'm good.
And that's not to say it's like in the same level of a feud, because I've had people misconstrue that before when I've said it. But it feels like they're always going to come back to each other. They're always going to keep like crossing paths, and it getting more and more bad blood between them every time they face each other. And I'm here for it. I think these guys have chemistry that's off the charts. They should be trying to put them in matches as not as often as they should, because then obviously people lose interest. But every now and again, if they've got nothing, neither of them have nothing to do, just put them back together, because they're gonna create magic. These guys have so much chemistry with one another. It's crazy.
It's so good. And again, the idea that different styles mesh, like, oh my God, they couldn't be more different in terms of gimmicks anyway.
Yeah.
Man, they're so good. David Shed. David, my friend, have you watched before? Thank you for hanging out. We all know Moxley will win against Darby Allin and get his shot at Bryan. Look, in my opinion, Jay, I don't know how you feel. I think Mox will be Danielson's last match, but maybe I'll be wrong.
I'm inclined to agree with you, though. For sure.
I don't think it's going to be Nigel.
No, well, Nigel's getting that match at least, isn't he? Potentially.
Yeah, look, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this. We've gone a long time here today, but it's one of the most fascinating things I think I've maybe not ever seen, but seen lately. This guy has run down Danielson from the moment he got there on commentary, and we assume it was going to go somewhere. What's fascinating to me, Jay, is that unless I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think Danielson's ever addressed this on live TV, has he?
No. The only time he's ever acknowledged it was when he had a match with I think it was Starks, the Texas Death match they had on Collision.
Uh-huh.
And Nigel said something, and Brian just looked at him and grinned. But other than that, Brian's just like, that's the whole thing where Nigel's promo on Dynamite this week, where he was obviously, he was obviously like saying, you passed me by. I had to sit in your shadow when I was like the guy who kept beating you. And it was like, and I'm so happy that I get to see this match again, because it was one of the matches that kept me interested in wrestling, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Wow.
The match in Ring of Honor they had in Liverpool, which I didn't get to go to, even though it's down the road from me. I've been 10 minutes from where I'm sat right now. I didn't go to it because I wasn't I was very jaded fan, and it's just someone had like lent me the DVD of it months after it happened. I was like, oh man, I wish I had gone to that. But yeah, these two are gonna have an absolute war. I feel like this will be Nigel's retirement match, if anything, or if not, if he still has, again, treat him as an attraction, I'm okay with that. He's been the only other person he's had beef with in AEW, though, is Adam Copeland. So again, I wouldn't say no to that match.
There's a great comparison, but I haven't slept in 3 days, so I don't know what it is. I know there's a great one, but it's escaping me. But for me, it plays out like this. He refuses to address any of this. He'll have to now, but he could burn Nigel from a storyline perspective to his face and say, I've beat you. We've already been down this road. You talked them into giving you this match, but the truth of the matter is, because Jay, for not ever acknowledging this guy is kind of a huge sign of disrespect. Like,
exactly.
Right? Because it makes Nigel look like he's a pouting little kid and mom won't pay him any attention.
Yeah. Well, again, it's Nigel, because obviously he entered the Casino Gauntlet match because he thought Danielson could get the belt. I need to stop this from happening. to obviously not getting a chance to then Danielson's all of a sudden not wrestling at Grand Slam. So he's gone, no, this is an injustice. I can't let the fans deal with this and not have the world champion even wrestle a non-title match at Grand Slam. It's not fair to them. And he knows exactly why Brian isn't going to be there. It's Nigel being petty. It's great.
I did find it interesting when John tells Darby that the champ wasn't going to wrestle because he was indisposed. And then Nigel comes out and they say, Nigel's going to wrestle Danielson. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was intrigued to see whether that would lead to something, because I feel like if ever there's a compelling person to put in that group, it would be Nigel.
Ooh.
Even if it's like having like the way in WCW with the NWO, the commentator, and WCW had a commentator, that sort of thing. Like, if that, because it feels kind of like that's where BCC is going a little bit, that this could be their NWO style storyline of like a hostile takeover. Now, if Nigel's the representative after saying that the Blackpool Combat Club were a terrible group for a year because Bryan Danielson was a part of it, then that's very compelling to me.
You took my next question. What I was going to ask you was, where do you think this is going? Because John cuts this promo on Darby from Wednesday night. By the way, I love John. I love like basically everything John does. I think Darby had one of the best moments in the ring talking to somebody that I've ever seen that kid have. Like, it was tremendous. No fear of this guy, you know?
Again, it's back to the point I was making about like All Out being a good kind of platform for a lot of like up and coming guys. This promo with Darby and Mox felt like Darby belonged in that main event, especially when you've got a guy like Mox who's like his current character where he feels like he's a serial killer is brilliant, and Darby's like fearless, just getting in his face. He's not scared that Mina's going to attack him, even though she's like already done it to someone in the show. And Mox is trying to like keep it peaceful, which makes me think like Mox might try and recruit him down the line.
Interesting.
It makes me think that's why Mox was originally wanting to talk to Darby, maybe to try and recruit him to then take the title off him, shot off him. But it's definitely interesting. I have no idea where this Mox thing is going. I've seen a lot of people say Shane McMahon. I hope it isn't. I really hope it isn't. Because there's much better things they can do, and I'd be really upset if that was the case.
Same.
But yeah, I'm very intrigued where it's going.
A couple things from that promo was the fact that John kept saying things like, I don't have time to explain. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever heard that in a wrestling promo. That's a movie line. I love that. I don't have time to explain. And also, you don't know what's coming. Like, that's very intriguing to me. I don't think it's talent, because what talent's not there already? Like, maybe a reorganization of characters, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Again, the whole Mox like declaring war on AEW, and Pac saying he needed something to believe in and he's found something. Like, it definitely feels like Mox has got a plan, but it's like him saying I don't have time to explain. It's almost like this is part of the bigger picture and you're not seeing it yet, but you will do. Yeah, it's fascinating television. I'm really intrigued where they're going with this.
It'll be interesting to see. Here's how you know John's a heel, kids, is that John's logic makes no sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to, because it's a heel's logic, and that's why he's a heel. Like, when heels make too much sense, Jay, they're no longer heels. But Darby called him out on it and said, what are you talking about, John? Isn't this what you're complaining about? Like, I'm not going to hand you something. And you're like, oh my God, John's a flat out heel now, because it only makes sense to him. Well, this is, and we're all going, no, that's not true. Right. That was awesome.
Although Hangman's a heel who makes good points.
He does, but
now he's fully turned after like killing a man.
Sure. Yeah, but to me, like I don't know if I'm ready for another who's heel and who's face thing with two big guys. I need a heel and I need a face.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose with Hangman as well, as I say, like he leading up to it was shades of grey, and then as soon as he burned Swerve's house down, he come out the heel tunnel. He walked back up through the heel tunnel. He's acknowledging now he's a bad guy. He's acknowledged that he's like he's past the point of no return, which is why it works so well. But again, the point I was making with him making good points is, in a weird way, everything he's done's justified. Because how far can you push someone before they lose their mind?
Oh yeah, and like I love the bit they didn't show on the air, Jay, is when he got to the top of the ramp, he kept staring at both entrances.
Yeah,
like he was trying to figure it out. Oh,
yeah,
so good. I'm like, that should have been on live air. I don't know why they didn't include that on live air, but and like when he was going to storm back down the ramp, I'm thinking he's not coming to attack. That's concern. He's actually Did I go too far?
Yeah, because he looked concerned, and then he was like, no, I can't. And then he just falls to his knees and screams.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So good.
That was wonderful. I was here for that.
Yeah.
Shane with an idea. Darby will beat Danielson in Washington, and Christian cashes in on Darby.
I think that was the original plan. I think they've changed. They pivoted.
Yeah, because that leaves Mox out.
Whatever this Mox thing is, I think Mox wins it, and then Darby's going to eventually take it off Mox, because it feels like Mox taking the shot off Darby now is like planting the seeds for then Darby to come back and get the belt off, like be the guy to take the belt off Mox.
Do you think in the long run this ends with Darby with that championship? Maybe.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think. I mean, John's a smart guy, isn't he? He's not gonna just drop the belt to Darby. He's gonna take him on a journey to get to that point, and that's how they do it.
Yeah, I'm here for that. Be interesting to see where all this plays out, how this plays out. Well, kids, guess what? There's your show. We done reviewed it. It's very late where Jay is, but we're going to we'll open the floor for a few moments and take a few questions, and then we're going to call it a day. Jay wants to get some rest, and I'm about to hit the floor. I'm so tired. It probably shows. I probably look a mess. Holy Lord, I'm exhausted. Ray was waiting, locked and loaded. Look at that.
I was trying to read that already.
Nas or Lil Wayne? We're going to break this down one by one.
Right.
Nas or Lil Wayne? I got Lil Wayne.
I got Nas.
Part 2, House of Pain or Digital Underground? I got to go Digital Underground.
House of Pain.
Oh. And if Adam Cole invited you to the grand opening of the Adam Cole Electronics Store, you should have capitalized Electronics Store, where you can pick any electronic item you want for free. What would you pick? I think I'd go with the PS5 just because I'm sick of all these videos of dudes finally getting one. I'm like, I still haven't got one, man. Come on. What would you pick?
I'm trying to think what I need right now. I need new speakers, actually, so I'll get new speakers.
See, I should have went with need, not want. I threw my choice away. And if he said you're frank, and he said if you have something as well, would you please? Okay, please call me later. And wanted to get dinner, which included pork chops, French fries, lemonade, and pecan pie. If pecan pie is on the menu, you can come, but you ain't eating all of it. I promise you that. Do you have pecan pie where you're at, Jay?
We do. It's not as good as over there, but we do have it.
I bet it's not, because over here it's magical. Robbie says I recently saw the Nick Cage Dark Side of the Ring. Nick Gage, I assume. Boy, Nick Cage Dark Side. I want to see that one now.
I really need to see Nicolas Cage in a death match now.
Oh my God!
That's what I want.
Book it, brother. What are your thoughts on backyard wrestling? Is it a training ground for people who want to go to a legitimate promotions training center, or is it just crossing too many lines as far as what legitimate wrestling is all about? What do you think about that?
So, if I'm right in understanding, it wasn't just backyard stuff he was doing. It was a lot of deathmatch stuff. I've got no issues with deathmatch wrestling. I've said that already. I'm a big fan of it. I do think people should be probably getting proper training, but then if you're learning things as far as like character stuff, you don't necessarily need to go to a training center to that. But then, yeah, it's a real weird gray area, because I know a lot of like big names, like look at the Hardys, for example. They literally learned by building a ring on the land and and the Young Bucks did the exact same thing. So I think it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to go to a wrestling school to start off with, but at the same time, it's probably the smartest thing to do, because you're actually learning from people who know what they're doing and not just kind of trying to come up with training that you're not getting because you're learning as well. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird gray area, I guess.
I think it depends on the worker. And I think the problem is, Jay, that if you don't get training early enough, you will pick up and develop and learn bad habits that by the time you get to a trainer, you're going to think you know what you're doing. And that guy's going to be like, run it again. That's not right. That's not how we do it. Like working from the left side. There's, and old school way is you work the left side of the body. You'll see guys switch it up, but it doesn't happen crazy often. But there's little stuff like that you don't know.
Lucha Libre is the right, isn't it, as well?
I think you're right, yeah.
Which is why a lot of like Mexican wrestlers who go to WWE struggle at first, because they're literally trying to do it in reverse from how they've been taught.
It's like driving on one side of the road versus the other side of the road, right?
Yeah, which is like us.
Who has the longest road to recovery, Adam Cole? I think Cole's been out. Has Cole been out longer than Kenny?
Only just. Kenny got his diagnosis like November. Cole got hurt in September. Cole's been out a year. But then Kenny's is much more serious than Cole's. So Kenny, I don't think there's any kind of set like recovery time for it. It's just when he's like recovered. Whereas Cole, I believe he's in like training according to Fightful. So I'm guessing that he's making. I mean, he was good enough to take a bumper. Was it Double or Nothing when MJF come back? So he's okay to take a bump. Granted, largely not on his ankle.
Yeah.
But in that was May, so I'm guessing he's like on the road to recovery. I hope he's back soon. I miss Adam Cole.
I do too. It's not the same without him. Maria says if Sting went to WWE instead of Warrior and beat Hogan at WrestleMania 6, how differently do we look at Sting and his legacy today? It's the great unknown. Hard to say. Sting would still be a Hall of Famer. He would still be one of the most dynamic, exciting wrestlers of all time. They wanted him. He said no. And had he gone, it would have been a much different landscape, Jay. But,
Sting knew exactly how they were going to book him, though, by the time he got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they put Triple H over on him. They didn't need to do that. And I know Sting was fine with it. He's a grown man. He's a professional. And everybody's okay with each other, I'm sure. But again, I'm thinking this didn't need to happen. You had Sting and Undertaker in the same locker room on the same WrestleMania, and you couldn't have booked them against each other?
Didn't Taker not want to do that?
Well, yeah, that's the story, is that they didn't want to at that point, because it's like, I guess age was a factor, and also they didn't want to, maybe it would never be as good as people have built it up in their heads. And I'm like,
I mean, to be fair, it was the year after the streak ended when Sting come in. So Taker was definitely like past his best at that point.
Look, I'm on the record.
I was going to say his last good match was the was the Punk one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The 29.
Yeah. And I'm on the record as saying this more than one time, Jay. Like, talk about the guy that if the accident had never happened, if Magnum TA had went to WWE, Hulk Hogan would have been shown that just show Hulk the door. You don't need him after that. Magnum had enough charisma, and he was a good-looking guy. And you talk about firing up, intensity personified. Magnum would have, I'm telling you, Hogan wouldn't have stood a chance next to that, I don't think. But, things that never happen. JP says people should get proper training before wrestling if you want longevity. Not a bad point.
Absolutely.
Not a bad point. Sugar Shane says...
Darby Allin.
Well, yeah.
He's got no longevity, though. He's going to probably be done in like 5 years tops, I think.
I like how he brought that up, John. He's like, people keep telling me I'm not going to last that long. He's like, I'm not going to take this for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to keep throwing himself off of stuff. I'm just saying. Shane says, who was a wrestler that scared you the most? Because as a kid, for me, it was Joe Ledoux. Do you have an answer for that? Did you get scared of somebody as a kid?
Probably Kane.
Oh.
Yeah, I reckon Kane would have been probably the answer for that. I can't think. Oh, actually, no. Tell you who, Mankind, when he first debuted. That's Undertaker. That scared the hell out of me.
Interesting.
I didn't sleep for weeks.
Wow. I mean, I'm scared of Kane these days, but for a lot of other different kinds of reasons.
Yeah, he's much more frightening without the mask than he is with.
Oh my God, terrifying! Right. Oof. Yeah. I don't know if I have one. Maybe for me it was the Great Kabuki because he just looked freaking evil. That's a tough one. Nikita scared the crap out of me too. Because like he was, when I got older and realized what all this was, I realized, Nikita didn't have a lot of training when they put him in. Because the story was Jim Crockett saw him in a gym in Charlotte and he was in the ring by the next week. Jesus. That's what I always heard. And like at the time it was ferocious because he didn't know what he's doing. And, trying to learn, I guess, as he went or whatever. But at the time that was scary. He was big. He had that look and he was an evil Russian. And we were taught they're evil over there. And they're trying to bomb us to smithereens. And here comes this guy that's just steamrolling everybody. That was scary to me, dude. Let's see. A few more kids we're going to get out of here. If Sting went to WWF, who would have been the Crow character? I don't think there would have been one. They would have built somebody up. But look, if Sting went to WWF, would anything have even played out like it did with WCW? I don't know.
I mean, Scott Hall had the idea. It was Scott Hall's idea, the Crow character, wasn't it? So as long as they cross paths like that still runs the same trajectory, I guess.
That's fair, yeah.
But Vince would never have turned Hogan heel.
No.
So, yeah, I suppose another point.
Maria says, Kamala scared me when I was a little kid. He had a great look. It was a weird gimmick that he kept forever. Looking back on it, probably not the most PC character I've ever seen. And, don't know if you should do something like that now. But it worked for its time, I guess. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. We've been on the air for 2 hours. I need a nap. Jay, before we go, first of all, thanks again, as always, for hanging out. Number two, tell all the good people where you are on the internet machine.
Well, I have 2 podcasts out tomorrow. I've got our podcast, Two Nations Under Ted, and I also have the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. We do usually a monthly roundup of things. So, as I said at the top of the podcast, we spoke about All Out, Rev Pro 12, Mystery Wrestling 10, and a few other bits and bobs. This month, we also do a lot of like show reviews, like retro and otherwise, show predictions, just general stuff you expect to see from a wrestling podcast, but spread out over time as opposed to like just one lovely episode like this. Yeah, so that'll be out tomorrow as well on YouTube and wherever podcasts are available, the Untitled Wrestling Podcast, because we couldn't think of a name and it kind of stuck.
That's the best reason ever.
Yeah.
By the way, kids, the handful of you that's left get to watch this. Check this out.
Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast, reviews all episodes of the Apple TV series with opinions from both sides of the Atlantic, featuring Tom Clark in the US and Jay Luft and Joe Higgins in the UK. Join them as they dive into all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso, with both video and audio versions available on boinkstudios.com.
Boom, there we go. In case anybody was curious what show we're talking about, now you know.
I'm wearing Richard colors right now.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, you are. I totally picked up on that. You know, I have an idea for the last episode, and I'm going to hit you with it off mic, but I think it's quite lovely. So, Jay, thanks again for joining me, man. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. All right, kids. Jay Luft there of the Untitled Wrestling Podcast and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Did you notice the hoodie's back on? It's getting to be that time of year. Tom breaks out the hoodie and then lives in it for like 6 straight months. That's what I do. I live in this thing, baby. I'm telling you. Just give me the hoodie and a cup of coffee. I'm all set. And some pumpkin. I'm a basic white girl when it comes to the fall. I loves me some pumpkin. All right, I'm getting out of here. Listen, thanks everybody for hanging out. I appreciate you folks. You guys know I do. I put you guys over every time I'm here. BoinkStudios.com, kids, please and thank you. BOINK, BoinkStudios.com. Please go check it out. You'll find links to Jay's pod. You'll also find links to Two Nations, 6M Podcast, and this here show you're watching right now. And you'll find links for every co-host that I work with or have ever worked with. Their links are there on that platform as well. By the way, just so everyone is fully aware, the website is down at the moment. Not sure what's going on. The server that I use is not returning my emails because people suck. So, but look, you can still, it's not going anywhere. BoinkStudios.com. Please do not forget about it. And I appreciate you very much. And I think that's all I got for you folks. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next week. If something comes up, of course, I'll let you know. But look for us next week, 4:00 p.m. Eastern Time, here live on the Facebook and later uploaded as audio wherever you get your podcasts, including the Boink Studios YouTube. That's it for me, kids. See you next time. Everybody have a great weekend, all right? And I'll see you later. Appreciate you. See you then. Still here. You see that? I'm out of here, kids. See ya.